This is one of those series that I wish that I could read for the first time again. It is one of my favorite series, one of my favorite YA fantasy series to this day. Highly, highly, highly recommend checking out this series. Hello, my fellow library patrons, and welcome back to Let Who Is Library for all things books and education. Can y'all believe that it is already June? We are already halfway through this year, and I feel like the year started like yesterday. I also want to say, though, I am surprised and also proud of myself for the books that I have read so far in the year 2024. And I want to share this moment with you. I want to take this time to share all the books that I've read so far in 2024. My goal for 2024 is 100 books. I know. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. I believe that I'm going to get there. And if I don't, that's totally okay too. But I've read 34 books so far. And according to Storygraph, I only need 11 books until I'm caught up. And I'm back on track onto my goal. Now, it's not as bad as it looks. It's not as bad as it seems because, right, I'm in a book club. We still have June, July, August, September, October, November, December to read. So I got 7 books. So technically, I only have 4 books to read to catch up on my reading goals. So, it's not as bad as it looks. It's not as bad as it looks. Anyway, I'm going to go over the books that I, very briefly, because 34 books is a lot, and I don't want to keep y'all here forever. And I just want to go over briefly what I've read, what I rated it, my thoughts on it. So let's get started. In January, I read 5 books. I read A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. It's the conclusion to An Ember in the Ashes series. And when I tell you, this is one of those series that I wish that I could read for the first time again. It is one of my favorite series, one of my favorite YA fantasy series to this day. So, of course, I rated the book 5 stars. I rate the whole series 5 stars. Highly, highly, highly recommend checking out this series. I really enjoyed it, the series as a whole, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's interested, but I really enjoyed the series because the world building was beautiful. The characters are not perfect, but they go through such deserved character development and character arcs. I'm a fan of slow burn. I love a good slow burn romance, and this book has that. Oh god, does it have that? It's so good. Okay, let's move on. The second book in January is Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. Now, this was a book club book picked by one of my friends. I gave it 4 stars. This is a YA fantasy book. This one was so enjoyable. It was just cute, whimsy. I don't know, it was just fun. It didn't take itself too seriously, but it knew what kind of book it was, if that makes sense. The characters were likable. Some of the characters were not likable. The female main character was, again, she was not perfect. And even though she was going through so many character developments and stuff like that, at times she would regress. And I found that so relatable. She's progressing through her story, interacting with different characters in different ways, and she's interacting with characters based off of her experiences. And as she's learning to trust people, there are certain situations that caused her to regress to previous unhealthy responses to things and things like that. I know I'm rambling, but my point is, the female main character I think is really, really, really relatable. The story is just fun. It's about, I'm not going to go into what it's about. Book number 3, A Flicker in the Dark. This one is by Stacey Willingham. I gave this 4 stars. It's a thriller. This one was like one of those books you read to get yourself out of a reading slump. It was good. Oh god. I don't want to talk about this next one. Caraval. Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I gave this 3 stars. Now, looking back on it, I feel like I should have given this 2 stars. I hated this book. It was trying to be everything is not what it seems kind of thing. The execution was not great. It's I feel like this author just wrote things in the plot just for convenience sake, just so they could say, oh, like if they wrote themselves into a plot hole, then they just convenienced themselves out of it, if that makes sense. Didn't like it. Wasn't my favorite. I might change my star rating to a 2. All right, next one is Demonic Prince. So this one is my first. I give this one 2 stars. It's by Karen Kinsey. Gave it 2 stars. Now I read the whole thing. This was my first introduction to monster smut. One of my goals is to step out of my comfort zone for this year, and I was like, let me get into it. This was free on Kindle. It was free on Kindle. And I just didn't enjoy it. Now, someone in the comments, let me know if this is what monster smut is supposed to be, or smut in general, because every single scene was an erotic scene, and there was no plot. I was confused. I'm like, what is the point of this book? Like, it started with a plot, and in the middle there was like sex, and then at the end it was, oh, that's right, we have a story to tell. I'm not a fan. However, as I said, if you are a smut fan, if there are books out there in this genre that have plot in addition to smut, please let me know, because I am interested. Like, I'll be for a good smut book if there's plot. That's all. Thanks. All right, and the last book I DNF'd, actually. I did DNF one book in January, Across Dark Seas by Claire Sager. I just couldn't get into it at the time. I don't even remember what it was about, to be honest. I probably got like 5% into the book before I was like, I can't. So that's my January. Let's move on to February. I read 4 books. I read Babel by R.F. Huang. I rated this 4 stars. I really love this book. I don't know how I can explain. And I read this on physical copy. I don't know how I can explain this, but I just really, really enjoyed this book. Maybe it was the vibes. I think I really enjoyed this book for the vibes. I will say it is a dense read. It is a slow read. And it is kind of a hard read. I enjoyed it. I recommended it to some of my friends and they did not like it. But to each his own. All right, next book is Children of Virtue and Vengeance and Children of Blood and Bone. Children of Blood and Bone is first, then Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. I rated Blood and Bone 3 stars and Virtue and Vengeance 4 stars. Now, I rated Blood and Bone 3 stars because for some reason, I just couldn't get into the characters. I prefer slow burn. I wasn't a fan of the insta-love between the 2 main characters. Like, I understand it's a YA book, but I don't understand, because if it's a series, like, we could stretch it out a little bit. Maybe I'm just being picky. Like I said, I prefer slow burn, but this was a bit of an insta-love for me, and I wasn't here for it. However, I continued on to the second book, and I really enjoyed it. That cliffhanger, whew, man, I cannot wait for the third one. I read these 2 books not knowing that the third one wasn't out yet, and when I was done with the second one, I was mad. I was like, why can't I finish these series, like, today? Anyway, they're good. I would recommend them. All right, next book is City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I gave this 2 stars. Because again, another one I couldn't get into is YA fantasy, another insta-love. The male main character was an a-hole. I didn't like him. He was arrogant. I didn't like him. And the world building for me was, I couldn't get into the world, and also how we moved through the landscape was a little too fast for me. I feel like we should have spent more time with the main characters on their journey so that we could see them developing this relationship together. That ultimately kind of ruined it for me. And also, it was the plot was a little bit confusing. However, I hear from my friends that the series actually gets great. So I'm probably going to continue this series. All right, that was February. Now on to March. So in March, I read 7 books. It just keeps going. It keeps going up each month. I read Yellowface by R.F. Huang. That one I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed that one. I don't have too much to say on that. I think it was pretty good commentary on whitewashing and yellow face and just how difficult it is to succeed in an industry like the publishing industry as an author of color. And I really appreciated this take. It was funny, it was witty, I think this is another book that you could read to get out of your reading slump. All right, the next book is The Mayor of Maxwell Street by Avery Cunningham. I give this 4 stars. I think I'm gonna reread this one. It was good. I really enjoyed this one because it takes place in Chicago, and Chicago, I think, in the 1920s. Hold on, let me fact check real quick. I lost my train of thought. I'm back from fact checking, and it does in fact take place in 1921 in America, in Chicago, around this time. And it follows the main character, Nellie Sawyer. She is the daughter of like one of the quote unquote wealthiest Negroes in America. So it kind of just follows her around like Black society within this time, and how it's kind of like there's this subculture in this time, and she wants to be a journalist, and she gets commissioned to be like to investigate the mayor of Maxwell Street, who's like this gangster that people are trying to find the identity of. That's just like cliff notes of what this book is, but it's, oh my god, it's a fun book. I would recommend. Next on my list is Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is my first read by Tiffany D. Jackson. And I gave it 4 stars. This is a thriller, and I think Tiffany D. Jackson is going to be one of my favorite authors. She wrote this book so beautifully. It's a fast-paced thriller, a lot of unexpected turns. I appreciated the commentary on like teens' experiences in group homes and being in the system. There's also a commentary about like mother/mother figures and those relationships. It's just a really good thriller. This book is about a young girl who gets convicted, I think she gets convicted, of killing her neighbor's baby. And the main character was like 7 or something like that. She was a child that killed another child. And basically this story follows her experiences. She ends up getting pregnant, and so we're just following her, trying to figure out, you know, did she actually do it, or is there more to the story? It's a good read. My next read is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. So I gave this one 3 stars. It's another thriller. I didn't really enjoy it. I feel like the idea was there, being based on like really scary problems of gentrification, things like that, but I don't think it was executed. There was also a romance plotline that I felt was unnecessary in there. They could have just been friends and the story would have remained the same. It was suspenseful in some parts. Yeah. Okay, next one is The Final Strife by Sarah L. Arifi. This one I gave 3 stars. It's a YA fantasy. It's kind of like it does. I gotta stop saying kind of, because it does. It does involve blood magic. I just really wasn't like wowed by it. But it was decent. All right, next one is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I gave this 3 stars. I wanted to like it more. I really did. I'm gonna read the second one because it's a duology. I did enjoy the dark, moody vibes. I always love like a moody book, like gothic theme. Love that. There's like a card system in this book that I feel like wasn't fleshed out enough, and I feel like could have been utilized more. Oh, I did end up giving it 3.5, not 3 stars. 3.5. Yeah, I wrote in my review that I felt like something was missing, but I couldn't really like put my finger on it, you know? I don't know. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. The next book I read is called That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. This one is a YA thriller. I gave this 3.5 stars. It was good. Twisty. Really enjoyed it. I cried at the end. The twist got me right here. But it was good. It was I think this is another book that could get you out of your reading slump. Thrillers, I feel like thrillers and like romance books are good for that. Yeah. So that was March. We are now on to April. I read 8 books in April. Again, each month it just keeps going up. I'm so proud of myself. Look at that. This is a reminder to pat yourself on the back for your achievements. Okay, don't forget to congratulate yourself. All right, first book I read in April is Behind You Is the Sea by Susan Moodie Darrach. I believe this is contemporary fiction. I gave this 4 stars. This was it made me cry. I forgot what it's called when you have like different like mini stories within a story, but they're all connected in some way, like by the characters. I forgot what it's called. But that's essentially what this book was. It was a collection of mini stories giving you a peek into the various lives of Palestinians in America and their experiences. And this book was written really well. Like I said, it made me cry several times. Whew. I think this speaks to the culture of Palestinians, and it brings light to their experiences, like I said, through America. They're interconnected communities. Recently, I've been learning more about Palestinians and their people. And the more I do, the more love and respect I have for the community. And I really, really recommend you picking up this book and reading it. All right, next one is The Weight of Blood. This is another book by Tiffany D. Jackson. I gave this one 5 stars. 5 stars. It was good. If you like this book, if you like Carrie, like if you're like a horror, okay, HORROR film or book, like Fanatic, if you really love that, if you like Carrie by Stephen King, you'll like this. This is kind of like a reimagining where race is involved, right? The main character is Black, and she basically has been pretending to be white because she is mixed, so she's light-skinned, and she's been pretending to be Black, but when her hair exposes her, right, when the rain, her hair gets wet and her hair, poofs up, everyone finds out she's Black, and then yeah, things get wild. Okay, I don't want to spoil too much. Things get weird. Okay, I will say there is a bit of a supernatural element in this that I've really enjoyed. Monday's Not Coming is the next book that I read. Another one by Tiffany D. Jackson. Another one that made me cry. This one was another 5 stars for me. Like, I cried so much in this book. I'm looking back at my review. Holy, it's long. This book basically it's a fiction YA thriller, and it basically kind of lends to the conversation about what happens when Black girls go missing and how society pays not as much attention to them as if a white girl was to go missing. And it's from the perspective of the friend of the girl that went missing. I've worked alongside DCFS with at-risk youth and families, and so this book really does have a special place in my heart. I will say the one thing I didn't like about this book, or that was confusing, was the formatting of the chapters. However, when I finished the book, it made more sense. So just prefacing, if you want to pick up this book, just know that the chapters can be a little bit confusing as how they're phrased. Like, for example, the chapters are like the before or the after, or they'll say 1 year before the before, and I'm like, what? I was so confused. But when I finished the book, it all clicked. So the next book I read is Iron Widow by Jiran J. Zhao. This book I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. It was just a vibe read for me. Like, I just really liked the characters. The main character, I liked the polygamy aspect of it. I don't read a lot of books where there's more than one love interest and things like that, so that was pretty cool to experience. I really liked the kaiju-esque what are they called? Oh, the Chrysalis it was giving Transformers, Power Rangers, kaiju, Pacific Rim vibes, and I was here for it. It was great. It was a good book. So the next book I read is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. My apologies. I gave this one 5 stars. This one was really good. I really enjoyed it. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, yeah. I think it was written very beautifully. The prose and the metaphors, all of it. The fairy tale, the fact that like there's fairy tales blurring the line between reality and make believe was very. It made things kind of fun to read. Yeah, it made things fun to read. Next one I read is called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I gave this one 3 stars. It was not for me. It was not for me. I enjoyed this concept of like the liminal space between life and death, options being presented to you in that space. I did enjoy some of the lessons that were and messages highlighted in this book, but it felt like too self-helpy to me, and I also found myself struggling to finish this book. I feel like it could have been shorter. I feel like if it was 100 pages shorter, I think it would have been okay. I feel like it was boring at times. It wasn't one of my favorite reads. Next book I read is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angelina Boyi. I hope I pronounced that right. I really need to start looking up pronunciations before I start filming. Alright, this one is by Angelina Boyi. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this plot. It's like a YA thriller, like mystery thriller, and it was very, very intricate. What I really enjoyed is the social commentary and perspective and surrounding like reservations, the surrounding communities around those reservations and how they interact with the reservations, racism, the lack of government support for reservations, lack of justice for Native Americans and their communities. I really just liked learning about Native American culture and its people. And it's just truly, truly, truly beautiful. Basically, this book follows one Native American female main character, and it's kind of like a ripple effect of like one person dies and another person dies and then another person dies, and then like this person's trying to figure out like how if these deaths are connected, and like kind of solve that mystery. All right, next book I read is called The Family Across the Street by Nicole Trope. This one was 3 stars. This one was a quick read. It was a fast-paced domestic thriller. I thought it was clever. I guessed part of the twist, but not the other part. The only thing I didn't like was the long-windedness of the writing. I feel like kind of similar to Midnight Library, if you could just kind of shorten it up a little bit, get to the point. I mean, I understand like drawing it out for suspense, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. This book takes place throughout the course of like one day too, so maybe that's why I was drawn out, just because like it takes place in the course of one day, so only got like, you only got so much time to tell a story, so you gotta kind of fill up the pages somehow. But yeah, didn't love it, didn't hate it. I enjoyed the read. It was a quick read, and another book that I think would take you out of a reading slump. All right, next book I read is The Atlas 6. This one is by Olivia Blake. Olivia Blake. I gave this 3 stars. Okay, I have a bone to pick with this one because I really wanted to enjoy this book. It's about magicians, YA fantasy. It's like magicians and like going into this competition. There's like 6 of them are going in, but only 5 can be selected, or whatever the number is. I don't know. But it's like magic competition. It sounds fantastic. It was not what I expected. Let's just say that. It was not what I expected. I wanted it to be more than what it was. Did I enjoy some elements of it? Absolutely. Do I think the book took itself a little too seriously? Absolutely. Will I read the second one and the third one? Absolutely. So I did DNF one book, and I DNF'd The Battle Drum by Sara El Arifi. This is the second book in I think it's called The Battle Strife. I don't know. I just talked about it. However, I did not want to finish it. I lost interest. There's nothing more to say. I lost interest. So that was April, and now we have May. May was a huge month for me. I don't know where I got this, like, stamina from, but I read 10 books in May. Your girl went from reading 4 books to 7 books to 8 books to 10 books. Again, it just keeps stacking up, man. What can I say? Okay, so in this month I read the entirety of the One of Us is Lying series, book 1, 2, and 3. I will say I gave each book in the series 4 stars. I really enjoyed this series. It was giving, like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's giving Pretty Little Liars, these YA thrillers. This book is by Karen M. McManus, and I really enjoyed. I think my favorite aspect of like all 3 of them is how interconnected the worlds are. So the first one follows a set group of teenagers, where one of them, like, I think there's like 5 teenagers in detention. One of them dies, and then the other teenagers who were there and present are being investigated for it. And like these teenagers have like siblings and like friends and like significant others and things like that. So once the first book concludes, the second book follows another set of teenagers, but they're connected to the first group of teenagers from the first book. So I think the second one follows the sister of one of the characters from the first book. And then the third book follows like another set of characters from this book as well. It's an enjoyable YA thriller series. I would recommend. Again, I think this is another one that could get you out of that reading slump if you're in one. Next book I read is Dragon Fruit. This was for the 2024 Asian Readathon put on by With Cindy, which I participated in. I rated this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. It was a nice look into Guamanian culture. It was just a light read. It was a YA fantasy. Yeah, YA fantasy. Again, I think this is another book that can help you get out of a reading slump. Delicious Monsters by Liselle Sambury. This one I gave 4 stars. This one was like a YA, like, mystery thriller. It's giving dark vibes. It's giving, like, some supernatural stuff going on. There's ghosties involved. It's great. It was a fun book. The Grace Years Next by Kim Liggett. I believe that's how you say it. I gave this 4 stars. Oh my gosh. This book was... I listened to it on audiobook. This book was a wild experience. Someone said it's Handmaid's Tale meets Hunger Games. That's all I'm going to say. The next book I read was Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I gave this one 5 stars. I really enjoyed the vibes of this book, the writing style, the pacing, the female main character, all of it. It was just a really, I love this book. Yeah. I think it might be added to my list of favorite books this year. My next book is A Tempest of Tea. This is another book that is part of my Asian Readathon for 2024. This one's by Hafsa Faisal. I gave this one 4 stars. I can't wait for the second one. Now, it was a struggle getting through the first like half of this book, 60% or so, because this is YA fantasy, because I don't know, I wanted it to be more than it was giving. But then when I got to that last 10%, I was like, oh, we're on this. Oh, okay, cool. Next book I read is One Last Word by Suzanne Park. I gave this one 3 stars. This is another book in the 2024 Asian Readathon that I read. This one was romance. It was like contemporary romance. I am not a fan of romance. Like, romance is not the thing that I'll like, ooh, if I had to pick YA fantasy and romance, I wouldn't pick romance. But I still wanted to check it out and read it. Get out of my comfort zone and all that. It was good. I think it was a cute read. Yeah. What I did enjoy about this book is the use of like healthy language within the relationships that are portrayed in this book. That was pretty cool. Final book of May that I read is First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. I gave this 4 stars. This was our latest book club pick, and this one was fun. It was, yes. What is that? What is that review? It was yes. It was a thriller, and a mystery thriller, and it was fun because this person, like, as their job, takes on like different identities to fulfill whatever her boss wants her to do. And when like her job and like her former life kind of meet, shit gets crazy. Okay, shit hits the fan. Yeah, but it's good. I would recommend. Again, another book to get you out of a reading slump. It was a quick read. It was fast paced. Didn't pull any punches. So that's it. That's all 34 books that I read this year so far in 2024. 34 down, 66 to go. Let me know how many books you've read so far. If you have any favorites, did you DNF any books? Yeah, let's talk. Love it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye! Cool. We're back. It's hot in here. Whew. I'm filming consistently for a minute. 23 minutes, really? Oh wow, 23 minutes? Jesus, oh my god, I'm gonna have a hell of a time editing this thing.